The storm passed after 16 hours. The settlement had survived. The gentle dawn had survived. Now the real work began. The problem was simple but dangerous. Union checkpoints scanned every ship for life signs. Human biology was in their database. The moment the gentle dawn passed through a checkpoint, alarms would sound. Warships would come. Everyone would die. Yuna had a solution. Your ship's sensors can be modified, she explained. She was drawing diagrams on a metal plate with a heated tool. Human and Valorian biology is similar in some ways. Same basic chemicals. Same temperature range. If I adjust the sensor masks, human life signs will look like Valorian life signs. That is highly illegal, Tovik said. So is helping us escape? Minho pointed out. We passed illegal a long time ago. Tovik could not argue with that. The modification took 2 days. Yuna worked with almost no sleep. Beleth helped her, his wounded arm wrapped in bandages. The young engineer had changed since the attack. He was quieter, braver. He had looked death in the face and survived. It had made him stronger. While Yuna worked on the ship, the humans prepared to leave their home of 3 years. Sojin walked through her garden one last time. She collected seeds and soil samples. She packed them carefully in sealed containers. Why bring soil? Marin asked. She had been following Sojin everywhere, asking questions, taking notes. Because this planet taught us how to survive, Sujin said. These plants kept us alive. I will not forget them. And maybe someday I can grow them somewhere safe? A reminder of what we overcame. Minho downloaded everything from the settlement's computers, maps, data, research, 3 years of survival knowledge. Compressed into data chips, Doyun walked the walls one final time. He checked every defense, every weapon, every trap. Not because they needed them anymore, but because this place had protected his family. It deserved respect. Teho stood before a small clearing outside the main building. 5 stones were arranged in a circle. Simple stones with names carved into them. Yung, Hyunwoo, Nari, Kangmin, Jiwoo. They were good people, Taiho said quietly. Rilla stood beside him, giving him space but showing support. Yunji was our doctor before Sojin took over. She died fighting a fever that swept through the camp. Hyunwoo was my best friend since childhood. A predator took him during a night hunt. Nari, Kangmin, and Jiwoo died in a rockslide during the first year. We barely knew the planet then. We made mistakes. I am sorry, Rilla said. Do not be sorry. They knew the risks. They chose to come anyway. They chose freedom over safety. Taiho touched each stone gently. We are going home now. All of us. I will carry your names with me. I will make sure the universe remembers you. On the 3rd day, everything was ready. The humans gathered their few possessions, clothes, tools, memories that all fit in small bags. They walked to the gentle dawn together. Valorians and humans. 2 species that should have been enemies, now bound by something stronger than fear. Taiho stopped at the door of the ship. He looked back at the settlement, at the walls he had built, at the towers he had raised, at the home he had made on a world that wanted him dead. Goodbye, he whispered. Then he stepped inside. The launch was rough. The planet threw one last storm at them, as if angry they were escaping. But Tovik was skilled and the gentle dawn was strong. They broke through the clouds and reached the darkness of space. The first checkpoint came 6 hours later. Everyone was tense. The humans sat in a hidden compartment, barely breathing. The Valorians tried to look normal. Rillis answered the checkpoint officer's questions with a steady voice. Research vessel Gentle Dawn returning from biological survey. Standard mission. Nothing unusual. The officer scanned their ship. Seconds felt like hours. Life signs confirmed? 4 Valorian. All registered crew members. Yuna's modification had worked. You are cleared to proceed. Safe travels. The checkpoint fell behind them. Minho let out a laugh of pure relief. Sujin hugged Yuna so hard the old engineer complained about her ribs. They passed 2 more checkpoints. Each time the same result. 4 Valorian life signs. Nothing suspicious? The impossible humans remained invisible dot at the edge of Union space. They stopped at a small station. It was old and dirty, filled with smugglers and outcasts and people who asked no questions. Rillis had contacts here. Friends who believed the Union's treatment of humanity was wrong. People who would help. This is where we part, Rillis said to Taiho. My friends will take you somewhere safe. A colony in the outer regions. No Union presence. You can build a new life there. Taiho took her hand. Human and Valorian. Different species. Different worlds. But in that moment, just two people who understood each other. What you did for us was more than kindness, Taiho said. You risked everything. Your career. Your freedom. Your life. Why? Rillis thought about the question. She remembered the storm. The attack. The way humans fought and laughed and loved and refused to surrender. Because fear is a terrible reason to destroy something beautiful, she said. And humanity is beautiful. Strange and terrifying and dangerous, yes. But beautiful. The universe needs more of that. Not less. The airlock opened. The station waited beyond. A new beginning. Sojin stopped beside Marin. The scientist was crying again. Will we see each other again? Marin asked. I hope so, Sojin said. The universe is big, but people who care about each other have a way of finding each other again. The 5 humans stepped onto the station. They were the first of their kind to stand this far from home. Ghosts who had become real again. Survivors who had refused to be forgotten. Taiho looked back one final time. Thank you, he said. For everything. Then they walked into the crowd and disappeared. Rillis watched them go. Beside her, Marin wiped her eyes. Tovik stood silently. Beleth, his arm still bandaged, smiled for the first time in days. Do you think they will be okay? Beleth asked. Ril is thought about everything she had seen. The 3 years on a Deathworld. The storm. The creatures. The strength in human eyes. They are human, she said. They will be more than okay. They will thrive. Somewhere across the stars, Earth was still waiting. And now, for the first time in 80 years, someone was coming back. Not today. Not tomorrow. But someday the promise would be kept. The plan was simple. Dangerous and illegal, but simple. The gentle dawn would carry the humans off the planet. They would find somewhere safe in the outer regions, away from Union control. The humans would be free, but first, they had to survive one more night on KX-7742. Minho came running into the main building. His face was serious. All his usual confidence was gone. Captain Taiho, we have a problem. Big storm coming from the east. Category to 7, maybe higher. Taiho stood immediately. How long? 3 hours. Maybe less. Rillis did not understand. What is a Category 7 storm? How bad is it? Yuna answered. She was already gathering equipment. Bad, very bad. Winds that can throw boulders. Lightning that strikes every few seconds. Acid rain that can eat through metal. The worst kind of storm this planet makes? We need to leave immediately, Tovik said. Our ship cannot survive that kind of weather. Your ship cannot fly in a Category 7, Minho said. The winds will tear it apart before you reach orbit. You are stuck here until the storm passes. Beleth made a sound of pure fear. Marin looked at the sky through a window. Already, the clouds were changing color. Growing darker, angrier. Everyone into the bunker, Taiho ordered. His voice was calm and commanding. Yuna, secure the power systems. Sujin, get the medical supplies. Doyan, weapons and lights. Minho, help our guests. The humans moved fast. They had done this before. They knew exactly what to do. The Valorians followed, confused and frightened. The bunker was underground, carved into solid rock beneath the settlement. Heavy doors sealed behind them. Emergency lights glowed on the walls. It was small and cramped, but it felt safe. How did you build this? Rillis asked. Doyan dug most of it by hand, Yuna said. Took him 4 months. Almost died twice from toxic gas pockets. But now we have somewhere to hide when the planet tries extra hard to kill us. Outside, the storm arrived. Even through meters of rock, they could hear it. The wind howled like a living thing. The ground shook from constant lightning strikes. The temperature dropped rapidly. The Valorians huddled together. They were not built for this. Their species evolved on a calm, gentle world. They had never experienced anything like this violence. The humans sat quietly. Some ate, some slept. Sujin read a book. Minho played with a small device. They were not afraid. They were just waiting. How can you be so calm? Beleth asked. His voice was shaking. Du Hyan looked at him. Fear uses energy. Energy is precious. We save it for when we need it. 2 hours into the storm, they heard something new. A scratching sound. Coming from the walls, Do-Yun was on his feet instantly. His blade was in his hand. Taiho grabbed a weapon from the wall. Something heavy and brutal. What is that? Marin whispered. Burrowers, Sujin said. Her voice was tight. Predators that live underground. Storms make them crazy. They attack anything they can find? The scratching grew louder, closer, then the wall exploded inward. The creature was horrible. 6 legs covered in hard shell. A head with no eyes but many teeth. It screamed as it came through the hole, spraying acid blood on the rocks. More followed. 3, 4, 5 of them. Pouring through the breach like a nightmare flood, the Valorians froze. Their bodies locked up with terror. They could not move. They could not think. The humans did not freeze. Do-Yun moved like water. His blade found the weak spots between armor plates. He cut and slashed and danced away from snapping jaws. Black blood sprayed the walls. Taiho grabbed a creature that lunged at Beleth. He grabbed it with his bare hands and threw it against the wall. Then he hit it again and again until it stopped moving. Yuna ran to the breach with something in her hands. She placed it carefully and yelled for everyone to get back. A loud explosion sealed the hole with melted rock. Sujin moved through the chaos, pulling the Valorians to safety. She dragged Marin behind cover. She pushed Tovik away from a creature's claws. She did not hesitate for a second. Minho grabbed a fallen weapon and fired at the last creature. It screamed and died at his feet. Then it was over. The silence was sudden and heavy. Rillis looked around the bunker. Dead creatures lay everywhere. Black blood covered the floor. The humans were breathing hard but already checking each other for injuries. Beleth was on the ground. One of the creatures had cut his arm. The wound was deep and bleeding badly. Taiho picked him up like he weighed nothing. He carried him to Sojin, who immediately began working on the wound. He will be fine, she said. The cut is clean. No poison. Rilla stood on shaking legs. She looked at the humans. Really looked at them. She understood now. She understood why the Galactic Union feared humanity. It was not because they were cruel or violent or evil. It was because they simply refused to die. The universe threw everything at them and they just kept going. They adapted. They fought. They survived. They were not monsters. They were something more frightening. They were unstoppable. Thank you, Rillis said to Taiho. You saved our lives. Taiho shrugged. Blood was drying on his hands. Cuts covered his arms. He did not seem to notice. You are our guests, he said simply. We protect our guests? Marin was crying. She did not know why. Maybe fear. Maybe relief. Maybe something else. We are taking you off this planet, Rillis said. Her voice was strong now, certain. No matter what it takes, I will not leave you here. Taiho smiled. It was the first real smile she had seen from him. Then let us plan, he said. We have a lot of work to do. Taiho spoke, and the Valorians listened. Outside, the wind screamed against the walls, but inside, there was only his voice and the weight of history. 80 years ago, humanity learned the truth. The Galactic Union had voted to contain them forever. Earth was classified as too dangerous. Humans were classified as too dangerous. They would never be allowed to join galactic society. They would never be allowed to leave their solar system. They would be prisoners in their own home until their species died. Most humans accepted this. They had no choice. The Union had technology far beyond anything Earth possessed. Fighting was impossible, but some humans refused to accept prison. Project Exodus was built in secret, Taiho said. Deep in the mountains of Korea, a group of scientists and engineers worked for 20 years. They built 10 ships. Small, fast, designed for long-distance travel. Each ship carried a crew of 20. Each ship went in a different direction. The Union did not know, Rillis asked. They found out? Too late to stop the launch, but not too late to hunt us. Taiho's hands tightened into fists. Old anger lived in his eyes. 9 ships were destroyed in the first year. The Union sent warships. They called it protecting galactic peace. They called it necessary. And the Hangul's promise? Meren asked softly. My mother was the original captain. She was brilliant. She kept us ahead of the hunters for 3 years. We traveled further than any human had ever gone. We saw stars that no human eyes had ever seen. Taiho smiled, but it was sad. We thought we had escaped. He walked to a console and pressed some buttons. A star map appeared on the wall. A red line showed the path of the Hangul's promise across the galaxy. They caught us near the rim, 3 Union warships. We fought, but we were damaged badly. My mother made a desperate choice. She jumped into uncharted space, random coordinates, no planning, just running. And you arrived here? Tovik said. We crashed here. The jump drive was destroyed. Half the crew died in the landing. My mother died 3 days later from her injuries. Taiho touched the console gently. She made me promise to keep the crew alive, to find a way home. I was 22 years old. The room was silent. Rillis thought about what it meant. A young man, stranded on a deadly world, watching his mother die, taking command of survivors who had no hope. How many survived the crash? She asked. 12. Over the 3 years, we lost 7 more. Predator attacks, disease accidents, now there are 5 of us. Taiho looked at the Valorians. We are all that remains of Project Exodus. We are all that remains of humanity's dream of freedom. Meren had been working on her datapad. Her face had gone pale. Captain Rillis, she said, I accessed old Union records. The Hangul's promise is listed in official archives as destroyed with all hands. These humans are officially dead. They do not exist. What happens if the Union learns they are alive? Beleth asked. He already knew the answer. Everyone did. They will send warships, Taiho said simply. They will finish what they started 80 years ago. They will kill us to protect their peace. Rillis felt something heavy in her chest. She looked at these humans. They had survived against impossible odds. They had built a life on a world that wanted them dead. They had kept hope alive for 3 years, and if she reported them, they would die. We should follow protocol, Beleth said. His voice was weak. We should contact the Union, report what we found. Protocol would kill them, Tovik said quietly. Protocol would make us murderers. We have laws, Beleth continued. We have rules. We cannot just ignore them. Laws that imprison an entire species because of fear. Meren stood up. Her eyes were angry. Laws that send warships to kill civilians? Those are not laws. Those are crimes, Rillis raised her hand. The argument stopped. She looked at Taiho. He looked back at her. He was not begging. He was not threatening. He was just waiting. Accepting whatever decision she made. Why did you answer our signal? Rillis asked. You could have hidden. We might have left without finding you. Taiho smiled slightly. Because I saw your ship design. Research vessel, scientific crew. I thought maybe, after all these years, we might meet someone who would see us as people instead of threats. Rillis thought about her children back home. She thought about what she would do if someone wanted to kill them just for existing. She thought about the kind of courage it took to survive 3 years on a Deathworld. We will not report you, she said. Beleth opened his mouth to argue. Tovik put a hand on his shoulder and shook his head. Thank you, Taiho said. The words were simple, but his voice cracked with emotion. Thank you. Do not thank me yet, Rillis said. Not reporting is not enough. You cannot stay here forever. Eventually someone else will come, someone less sympathetic. Taiho nodded. I know, but we have no ship, no way to leave. We are trapped. Rillis looked at her crew. Then she looked at the humans. A crazy idea formed in her mind. An illegal idea. A dangerous idea. What if, she said slowly, we took you with us? The descent was terrifying. The gentle dawn shook and screamed as it pushed through clouds of acid. Lightning struck the hull 3 times. Winds tried to flip the ship over. Beleth was crying quietly at his station. Even Tovik, with all his experience, was sweating. Rillis watched the viewscreen and tried to stay calm. This was a Class 3 world. The planet itself wanted to kill them. They broke through the clouds and saw the surface. Dark rock stretched in every direction. Strange plants with red leaves grew in clusters. In the distance, something massive moved through a valley. Rillis did not want to know what it was. There, Marin pointed. The human settlement. It was built around the crashed ship. Walls made of metal and stone. Towers with strange devices on top. Lights that glowed warm in the dark landscape. It looked strong. It looked permanent. Tovik landed the gentle dawn 200 meters from the walls. The engines powered down. For a moment, everyone just sat in silence. Full environmental suits, Rillis ordered. Weapons ready but not raised. We go in peace, but we go prepared. They suited up and walked to the airlock. Rillis was first. The door opened and the air of the Deathworld hit her suit. Even through the filters, she could smell something burning. The ground beneath her feet was hot. 5 figures stood waiting for them. They were humans. Rillis had seen images of humans before. Every child in the Union learned about the dangerous species from Earth, but seeing them in person was different. They were tall. Their bodies were thick with muscle. Their eyes moved constantly, watching everything. They stood in the toxic air without any protection. They wore only simple clothes. The one in front stepped forward. He was older than the others, with gray in his dark hair and lines on his face. But he stood straight and his eyes were sharp. Captain Tejo, Rillis said. Her voice translator made her words into human sounds. I am Captain Rillis? Tejo nodded slowly. You came down. I did not expect that. We are researchers. We study Deathworlds. We wanted to understand how you are here. Tejo almost smiled. That is a long story. Please come inside. The air will damage your suits over time. He turned and walked toward the settlement. The other humans followed. Rillis looked at her crew. Beleth was shaking. Tovik was tense. Marin was already walking after the humans, fascinated. Inside the walls, the settlement was remarkable. Buildings made from pieces of the crashed ship. Gardens growing strange plants. Water systems that collected and purified the toxic rain. Everything was built with care and skill. A human woman approached them. She was younger than Tejo, with a kind face and gentle voice. I am Dr. Sujin, she said. I am the medical officer and botanist. Welcome to our home. You have been here for how long? Marin asked. She could not contain her curiosity. 3 years, Sujin said. Marin made a choking sound. 3 years? On a Class 3 Deathworld? Without support? Without resupply? Sujin smiled. Yes, it was difficult at first. But we adapted. Adapted? The word hung in the air. Rillis thought about what adaptation meant on a world like this. The constant danger. The toxic environment. The predators. 3 years. Tejo led them on a tour. They met the other humans. Minho was the pilot, young and confident, with quick hands and a quicker smile. Yuna was the engineer, older and tough, with burn scars on her arms from years of hard work. Do-Yun was security, quiet and watchful, with a large blade on his belt that had clearly been used many times. In the engineering section. Yuna showed them the reactor. The original power source was destroyed in the crash, she explained. I rebuilt it using radioactive materials from the local geology. Took me 8 months. Nearly killed me twice. But it works. Beleth stared at her. You built a reactor from Deathworld materials? That should not be possible. Yuna shrugged. Things are only impossible until someone does them. In the garden, Sujin showed them her plants. Most native species are poisonous to humans, she said. I spent the first year testing everything, finding what could be made safe, learning what the planet would give us. She picked a red fruit and ate it. Now we eat well? Marin was writing notes as fast as she could. This is incredible. The biological adaptation required. The chemical processing. You should all be dead. Sujin laughed softly. We have heard that before. Doyan took them to a wall covered with skulls. Animal skulls. Massive things with too many teeth and too many eyes. Bones from creatures that nightmares were made of. The predators learned to avoid the settlement, Doyan said. His voice was flat and calm. Eventually, Rillis counted the skulls. There were over 40. Finally, Faiho brought them to a room with a long table. He sat down and looked at Rillis with eyes that had seen too much. Now you have seen how we live, he said. You want to know how we got here? Yes, Rillis said. Humans have never left their solar system. The Union made sure of that. You should not exist. Taiho was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with old pain. You are right. We should not exist. That is exactly why no one ever came looking for us. He stood and walked to a window. Outside, lightning struck the ground. The world burned and raged. Let me tell you about Project Exodus, he said. Let me tell you why we are ghosts. The research vessel Gentle Dawn dropped out of hyperspace with a soft hum. Captain Rillis stood at the center of the bridge, her 4 eyes scanning the planet that filled the view screen. It was ugly. Brown and green clouds swirled over dark continents. Lightning flashed every few seconds, lighting up storms that could swallow cities. Planet KX-7742, Navigator Tovik announced from his station. His voice was calm, but his tail twitched with unease. Class 3 Deathworld. Toxic atmosphere. Radiation levels at 3 times safe limits. Surface temperature varies between freezing and boiling depending on location. Rillis nodded slowly. She had seen Deathworlds before. They were common enough in the outer regions of the galaxy. Dangerous places where life evolved to kill. But they were also rich in rare biological samples. That was why her crew was here. Marin, begin your scans, Rillis ordered. Science Officer Marin was already working. Her long fingers danced over her console, and her eyes were bright with excitement. Unlike the others, she loved Deathworlds. She found them beautiful in their violence. Captain, the ecosystem is remarkable, Marin said. I am detecting over 40,000 unique species on the northern continent alone. Predator density is extremely high. This planet is a battlefield. Young engineer Beleth made a small sound of fear. This was his first mission to a Deathworld. He stood near the back of the bridge, trying to look brave and failing. We will remain in orbit, Rillis said. Drone surveys only. I want no crew on that surface unless absolutely necessary. Everyone agreed. No one wanted to walk on a world where the very air could kill you and the animals wanted to eat you for 2 hours. Everything was normal. The drones descended through acid rain and hurricane winds. They sent back images of massive creatures fighting in swamps of poison. They recorded plants that moved and hunted. Marin was delighted. Beleth looked sick, then Tovik made a strange sound. Captain, he said. His voice had changed. I am detecting something on the northern continent, metallic, large. Rillis turned to face him. Metallic? A natural formation? No, Tovik's 4 eyes were wide now. It is artificial. It is a ship. The bridge went silent. That is impossible, Marin whispered. Class 3 worlds do not develop spacefaring civilizations. The survival pressure is too high. Species never advance beyond basic tool use. It is not native, Tovik said. He pressed more controls. The design does not match any known species in the Galactic Union database. It is crashed. Old damage. But the structure is clearly a spacecraft. Rillis felt cold. An unknown ship on a Deathworld. This was exactly the kind of discovery that changed careers. Or ended them. Show me, she ordered. The view screen changed. Through the swirling clouds, she could see it. A ship, half buried in rock and twisted metal. It was broken, but she could tell it had once been proud. The design was strange, angular, efficient, built for function, not beauty. Run the identification program again, Rillis said. Check against all known species. Even extinct ones. Tovik worked for a long minute. Then he stopped. His hands were shaking. Captain, he said. I have a match. Who built that ship? Tovik looked at her. In 200 cycles of space travel, she had never seen him afraid. He was afraid now. Humans, he said. The word hit the bridge like a physical blow. Belef gasped. Marin dropped her datapad. Rillis gripped her command chair so hard her claws scraped the metal. That is impossible, Rillis said. Humans have never left their solar system. They are a contained species. The Union made certain of that. I know, Tovik said. But the ship design matches human construction patterns with 94% accuracy. The alloy composition is consistent with Earth-based metallurgy. That ship was built by humans, Rillis stared at the screen. Humans. The word carried weight throughout the galaxy. Every species knew about humans. They were the monsters that evolution had created on Earth, a world so deadly that the Galactic Union had classified it as Class 12, the highest rating. A world of poison air, extreme weather, deadly predators, and constant natural disasters, and yet humans had not only survived there, they had thrived. They had built cities and weapons and eventually spacecraft. When the Union made first contact 60 years ago, they had been horrified. Humans were too dangerous, too resilient, too adaptable. The Union had voted to contain them, to keep them locked in their own solar system. Forever. No human ship had ever been recorded outside of Sol system. Until now. We need to report this, Beleth said. His voice was high with panic. We need to contact the Union immediately. Wait, Marin said. She was staring at her console. Captain, I am detecting life signs on the planet? Near the ship. Multiple beings. They are human. Rillis felt her hearts beating faster. Living humans. On a Class 3 Deathworld. 12,000 light-years from Earth. How many? She asked. 5, all adults. All alive. Before Rillis could respond, the communication system crackled. Static filled the bridge, then cleared. A voice came through. It was deep and calm and spoke Galactic Common with a strange accent. Unidentified vessel, this is Captain Taiho of the Hongul's Promise. You have entered a restricted recovery zone. State your intentions or leave. No one on the bridge moved. No one spoke. The voice waited. Rillis looked at her crew. She looked at the planet below. She thought about protocol and safety and the stories she had heard about humans since she was a child. Then she made a decision that would change everything. This is Captain Rillis of the research. Vessel Gentle Dawn, she said. We are coming down. She ended the transmission and turned to Tovik. Take us in.